many of the people asking the questions actually asking them about themselves. What I can say, and you know, what caused me to have I speak about women's health actually, and it is great to talk about women's health, treating people with dignity and respect. But I have had 11 pregnancies. I have 4 children. I have had 11 pregnancies. And the reason that I've had so many pregnancies, one, I didn't know this until it happened to me, but you can have periods without ovulating. So there's one. I can't remember what it's called now. 2, I had severe endometriosis. I even had it in my fallopian tube, and that caused ectopic pregnancies. And you know, and then when we talk about the side effects of that, we've got things like fibroids. We've got things that are incredibly painful, polycystic ovaries, and I'm not even mentioning half of the female issues that people go through. But one of the issues that women in work do experience are things like flooding. Now, let me talk about flooding for you, okay? If you are suffering fibroids or endometriosis or heavy periods like that, you need to go to your doctor if you're flooding. And to give you an example of that, I was doing an in-person talk many years ago, and my endometriosis was particularly bad, and I had you know, lots of protection in place, like 5 times the amount that I normally would have actually, and I'd gone to change actually during the break, and I'd come back, and then suddenly I had flooding, and you feel lightheaded. Okay, I had to sit down on a chair, and it was so bad. This is what women go through in work, and this is within 45 minutes of changing. I had to sit down and wave people goodbye. Okay, so that could be somebody that's working for you. So for me, what I would say is I love these welfare baskets in work. Okay, they're brilliant. I remember when I worked in Canada, you remember me working in Canada last year, there was a lady that said, I've just come through on my skirt, and I said, go home, get changed, and she's walking around, she said, no, she's walking around with like a coat round a skirt all day long. But I want you to think about its dignity, its respect, it's humanizing it, it's normalizing speaking about it. Be conscious of the conversation, by the way, you know, of who you're around, but having that conversation about having a welfare basket in all the toilets, men, women, Men's Health Month is next month, by the way, and in there you can pick up underwear really cheap as a company and spare leggings in Primark. Yeah, you can have them, you know, you can have a key if you want to keep them to one side, but sanitary towels, Tampax, wipes, deodorant, that type of thing helps people realize that you do understand that you have got females working for you that may experience issues with their periods, and it normalizes it. So there's different stages that exist from perimenopause to postmenopause. Let's remember that. And also, females that are assigned female at work but birth, they can also that have transitioned. So females and those assigned female at birth, typically this would happen over the menopause between 45 and 50, but then we've got the trans and non-binary staff can be affected, and you might not know if they've not disclosed their gender assigned at birth. They may have kept their female organs, or actually they could just go through the menopause and those symptoms. Everyone should be treated with dignity and respect and have access to relevant policies, procedures and support. Now, the NHS defines menopause as the time when periods stop due to lower hormone levels. Now, I'm sorry if I'm the reason we do, I have to talk about the menopause and the symptoms for you to understand why it's so important to put policies and procedures in place and to support people. So when we're graphic, there's a reason behind it. We're talking about what happens to the human body, and what happens. And for those, there are people actually, I did an in-person talk a few weeks ago, and they said, I never knew that, but many people do know this. But okay, what happens is when you produce an egg and it doesn't get fertilized, the lining of the womb, okay, it crumbles and it comes out. That's what your period is. If you're suffering endometriosis, the lining of the womb has attached to several places in your body. And for me, it was in my fallopian tube, it was attached to my bowel. My sister, by the way, suffered from it. My other sister did too, and my daughter that's 33 is due to have a hysterectomy because of it. And it was attached, my sister Lulu, it was terrible. She had cysts and it was attached to her bowel. She had to have a massive bowel operation. It was attached to her kidneys. And what happens with with endometriosis, it bleeds at the same time as having a period, and it bloats people out. It causes incredible pain. And I want you to understand this so you know how you can support your staff. The NHS defines the menopause as the time when those periods stop due to the lower hormone levels. So when we then go into the perimenopause or the menopause or postmenopause, those lovely hormones that make our hair luscious, our skin lovely, our moods great, but maybe erratic, they're starting to dwindle. Okay. And you feel like you're getting the life sucked out of you sometimes. But, and that's where HRT is brilliant. It steps in there. It usually affects women between 45 and 55, but it can happen early because of a hysterectomy, because of cancer, because of some hormone issue that somebody might have, or surgery. There are different stages of the menopause, starting with the perimenopause, when the individual has symptoms of menopause, but their periods have not stopped. And symptoms of the menopause vary in severity, let me say that, from person to person, from day to day. Menopause and perimenopause can cause symptoms such as hot flushes. And we're not on about going, oh, I feel a bit hot. It's like a fire. It's started roaring inside you, and you feel like you're going to spontaneously combust. Night sweats, insomnia, fatigue, because you're not sleeping during the day, and probably the partner that you share a bed with, you're tossing and turning, is affecting their sleep as well. It does affect your concentration. It does affect your memory. It affects headaches, joints, skin irritation, dry eyes. Suddenly I started getting acne, and I thought, great, knock me while I'm down, will you? Hair loss, urinary problems, and it takes longer to recover from an illness. As a result of any physical symptoms of hormone imbalance, individuals can also experience psychological difficulties. Furthermore, women have been unable to have children may also respond negatively, because it's like somebody saying, this is it, this is the last chance, and if somebody has struggled with fertility, that can be a really tough time, and especially if they're just starting the menopause. So it can affect people. It can cause depression, anxiety, panic attacks, mood swings, irritability, problems with memory, and loss of confidence. And the other thing is that we need to be aware of, people go, I put on weight. I put on 10 kilos since 2018, and I'm devastated. And really devastated. But what happens as you get older, you go through the menopause, you're supposed to, that 10,000 steps that was okay for everybody, you now have to double up on that. I don't know how you can fit 20,000 in a day to work, to get rid of those, the calories. A time when you feel like you should be more sluggish in life, you have to be more active. And so you get this loss of confidence because your waistline goes like an M&M. You have like arms and legs and like this round body. Not everybody's affected by this. I am. And these symptoms can start years before the individual's periods stop and carry on afterwards. And there are a range of ways to manage these symptoms, and some of them can be implemented in the workplace. And that is where you are stepping in. So that is my little bit of a description of the menopause. But why aren't people talking about it? Because it's uncomfortable. I know in the 70s, and when we talk about menstruation, as soon as you start a period, they go, you can get pregnant now, you can't have sex. So it's always been related to sex. So there's like this taboo about it. Uncomfortable, I wouldn't be happy talking to somebody who's younger about it, or of the opposite sex. And that's just me. Maybe other people would be okay, but not aware of their sex assigned at birth as well, because they don't want you to know, or unsympathetic. Before employees can work to support employees in this position, we have understood what the menopause is now. And you must understand why some employees do not come forward. It could be culture, it could be language difficulties, it could be treated, they feel like they're going to be treated differently because jokes have been made in the past saying she's past it, or she's coming to the end of her days, or something like that. The jokes that people make, or the banter, or she's in the mood because she's on a period. No, I'm not. I'm in a mood because you're irritating me. And if you say that again, I feel like strangling you. But that's the case, isn't it? I'm worried about the impact upon future promotion, development opportunities, and denial as to what this means for them personally. So that's some of the issues and the common issues that people face at work. And it is a big deal, and it can stop them seeking and receiving further support and suffering alone. But let's not forget the culture issues and the language barriers as well. Okay, so that's why aren't we talking about why provide menopause support? Well, it avoids this long-term or excessive absence. I feel like I'm being heard. And when I talk about managing absence anyway, I always talk about there's things we can do in the workplace. One of the things we can do is where I spoke in the pandemic about these health cafes or these social cafes that you can start in work. And at first, you might only get like one or two people come in, but once you start putting sandwiches on or scones or doing an afternoon tea or people bringing stuff in, these social cafes that you do at work can cover everything, and you can have monthly sort of topics that you speak about. So you could talk about, for at the moment, I would speak about menopause this month and talk about menopause. And since I've been really vocal about menopause, I have had lots of men at work ask me about the menopause and ask me about periods and ask me also about fertility. And they had private conversations with me about it because I've been speaking about it and they know that I do speak about it. So when we have a health cafe at work and we create that health cafe at work and we raise awareness, we could do menopause this month, couldn't we? Next month we could do men's health, and then in November and December, we could also, back end of November, we could talk about finances with Christmas coming up and the pressure it puts on people. So we could bring in things like the credit unions. We could bring in people talking about money. So, these health cafes raise awareness. And if you have posters up at work, change them about a bit, put them on the back of toilet doors, put them on, in the toilet above the urinal. There may be somebody at work that has a partner and has not even considered that they're going through the menopause. So it does avoid these longer term or excessive absence. We need to do return to work interviews after one day anyway, for health and safety, to keep an eye on absences, but to have that and start that conversation about why were you off, and then stop and wait for them to respond. It helps women and those assigned female at birth thrive at work. That's the main point of this, and encourage employee retention and improves the external reputation of the organization. So, in this slide, we've looked at and focused on supporting employees with the menopause and the positives it can bring to your organization. If you're prepared to take steps to assist employees going through the menopause, you're going to help avoid employees taking long periods away from work to associated illnesses or issues with the mental health. Retain the skills and experience of your employees by discouraging them from looking elsewhere for employment due to any poor treatment related to this issue, and help attract skilled candidates to the company who wish to benefit from the company's stance and support it provides for this issue. I'm sad to say there are still employers out there that say, oh my gosh, what else do we have to do? I've heard it. There are employers out there that say, the menopause, for goodness sake. And I give myself as an example, and I think, would you want to lose me if I worked for you just because I went through the menopause? Yeah, it's about being supportive, and making those reasonable adjustments and having that risk assessment in place.